Lord, I thank you that I am here today to read the Bible, to pray, to worship the Lord. I am so thankful that you have provided protection to me while I am here in Korea fighting for the South Korean people, and that you are with them and that you are serving the South Korean people of every day. Thank you so much, Lord. I love you so much. Well, I was a farm boy raised on a farm in South Carolina. It was a relatively small farm, but we raised corn, cotton, peanuts, small grain, and we had some livestock. I went to a very small school. There were about 7 students in each grade, 7 or maybe 8. And then when I graduated from high school, I attended Clemson College, located in the upper part of South Carolina. And while I was at Clemson, I studied agriculture. At the same time, World War II was just ending, but I was in the military program at Clemson College. When I graduated, I got a diploma, and I also got a commission as second lieutenant in the United States Army. Shortly afterwards, maybe 2 or 3 months, I was called to active duty, and I was assigned to active duty at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Then I was later transferred, put on a ship, and sent to Japan, and we were assigned to a base in southern Japan. It was on Kyushu Island, and in the late June 1950, we heard that North Korea had invaded South Korea. My unit being in the southern part of South Korea, we were immediately loaded on ships on July 4th, 1950, and the next day we arrived at Busan, South Korea. And then we immediately moved northward and engaged the North Korean army near the South Korean city of Daejeon. I was a young soldier. I was an officer, but I was 21 years old when I arrived in Korea. And then I turned 22 years old about 4 months later. But I was relatively young to be an officer in the United States Army. I knew about Korea. I heard about North Korea. I heard about South Korea. But I did not know very much. But I did know at the time the two countries were separated at the 38th degree parallel. And that was an agreement between the United Nations and North Korea. And we occupied the South. The communist government occupied the northern part of Korea. And I thought it was terrible that the country had been divided like it was. during the war, as we approached the South Korean city of Seoul, there was a religious ceremony conducted by a Protestant minister named Chaplain Hislop. I attended the service and I listened to the Bible reading. I listened to his prayer and I was greatly pleased and honored to be a part of that service. And this was in Seoul, South Korea. And at that time, Chaplain Hislop gave me this little Bible. And I was very pleased to receive the Bible. I kept it in my jacket pocket, opened my heart, and every day I read from the Bible. And I can recall the first thing I read in the Bible was Psalm 23. The Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. But every time I read the Bible, I always began with Psalm 23. And I had the Bible at the time that I was captured. Immediately after I was captured on November 4th, 1950. We walked all night, November 4th. The following morning, November 5th, after sunrise, we were strafed by American aircraft, and we had to hide in a gully. We had to hide from the United States aircraft. And while I was hiding in this gully, I removed the Bible from my pocket and I opened it up and I read from the Bible. Then at the same time, I had a fountain pen and I wrote some things in the Bible. And I did not write very much because I'd been wounded and I was in very much pain. But I did write that I was wounded, that I was captured by the Chinese Army on November 4th, 1950. I wrote that I had been shot through the foot by machine gun fire. I also wrote that we walked all night long. I wrote in the Bible that shortly after sunrise on November 5th, 1950, we were strafed by American aircraft. The Bible, it was my treasure, and I kept it hid at all times, and I did not want the Chinese or the North Koreans to find my Bible. But on two different occasions, they made everybody go outside and they inspected and searched our belongings and our clothing inside the buildings or the houses that we lived in. And on two different occasions, the Chinese soldiers found my Bible. And I was able, from where I was standing, to watch them. They took my Bible, they opened it up, they glanced at it, and they uttered something which was not very complimentary, I am sure. Then they tossed my Bible, through the door on the ground outside. I was standing and observing the best that I could. I would casually make my way to this pile of contraband. Everything they did not want us to have, they threw it on a pile. And on 2 different occasions, I would walk up to the pile of contraband. I would spot my Bible. I would casually put my foot on the Bible. I would work it away from the pile of contraband. Then I would sit as if I was totally exhausted. And when the Chinese officers and soldiers were not looking, I would casually put the Bible in my pocket, and I was able to recover the Bible this way on 2 different occasions. When I was in the war, I read from this Bible very often, and every time I read from the Bible, I thought about God. And I was a Christian all along, but I was not a very serious Christian. But in combat, when I received the Bible, and when my life was in danger and other soldiers' lives were in danger, I read from the Bible. I prayed to God. I prayed for our safety. I prayed that we would be able to eventually return home. I prayed for the people in South Korea. I prayed for the freedom of the South Korean people and the South Korean government. But at that time is when I really found God. There was one verse in the Bible that I always read first, and it was one chapter, the 23rd Psalm. I cannot memorize it, but it began, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me beside the still waters." And it continued from that, but each time I would read Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd," because my mama had told me when I was a child, anytime that you're in trouble, anytime you are worried, read Psalm 23 and it will give you comfort. And I did that, and it certainly did give me a lot of comfort. I have never resented God. Not once. It never occurred to me to hold any resentment against God. I prayed to God every day. I prayed to God sometimes, several times each day. And there was no resentment, but there was appreciation for God, there was love for God, and I trusted my life with God. When I returned to this country, my wife made sure that the first Sunday I was home that we went to church. And we went to the church near her home. And the name of the church was Limestone United Methodist Church. And it was located off the highway between Orangeburg and the town of North, South Carolina. And I do remember the service, and I was so thankful to be able to attend the service. Yes, I spent 4 years of my latter of youth years fighting for South Korea. I was really honored to be a part of the United States Army and helping to liberate South Korea from the North. I did not want to see South Korea turn to communism, and I was greatly pleased to be able to help the South Korean people. There has never been any resentment whatsoever for the time that I spent in South Korea. There's never been any resentment for the machine gun bullet that went through my foot just before I was captured by the Chinese Army, because I had great love for South Korea. I am 92 years old. During these 92 years, God has meant so much to me. God has meant everything to me. I put all my faith in God. My children each want the Bible after my death, and I don't know which one will end up with it. But to me, it has been a treasure, and a museum in Columbia asked for it, but I declined, and I kept the Bible here so that I could look at it every day and that I could give it to one of my children after my death.